Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Punch, Kick, Choke Chat. My name is Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts, and yes, it's really bright behind me. I'm coming to you at 5:30 p.m. from Los Angeles. I'm down here again for a bit of work. You only get me for the first hour tonight. I have to duck out and actually go to work tonight, but I'm so happy to be here for this hour. I'm here with my Sensei host brothers, and I'm here with TJ Williams, and we're going to jump right in the way we do. So the first thing I want to ask you, because I'm so excited to get into this with you, is what does everybody watching and listening need to know they got wrong about the world of professional wrestling?
Well, they always say it's fake, but
Yes, let's get at that.
yeah. So look at it this way. Well, pretty much how we play it out is like it's kind of like acting. So of course, that's in your case, Sean, by acting. But in this case, we actually do make some contact. And I know I find out firsthand about real life injuries. So of course, right now I'm recovering from a knee injury that I got at the end of August. And pretty much it's going pretty good right now, but I'm still healing up. So I'm looking at like towards August to get back into the ring. So I'm not totally retired yet.
By the way, I don't want to spend too long on it, but what knee injury did you get?
I ruptured my right patellar tendon. So yeah.
Yep. I know all about it, my friend. I know all about it. Hit me up privately. We'll talk knees over toes because I've recovered 2 knees doing that in the last year.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. My brother sent me a video the other day where people were doing the fluorescent light smash, and these guys were covered in blood, and they were probably getting $500 a night. Like it was one of those shows. And so talk about the idea that maybe the outcome is scripted and maybe it's choreographed, but what level of contact and actual martial skill is involved?
Well, look at this way. Mostly we call it like mostly if you think of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that's pretty much we call chain wrestling. So basically we're doing hold by hold, and basically 2 wrestlers are just like trying to like battle out and see who outholds each other. So so actually it's basically scripted, but in this case, you got some wrestlers that actually are like super tight, or they would call them I forgot the word they would say, but kind of like they're stiff. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And so when you say they're stiff, that means they're putting a lot of juice on the moves, that kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. You got some of those wrestlers that like to really be legit shoot wrestlers. And but but mostly it's all about safety. But when it comes to the between the 2 wrestlers, we have to at least work each other, work together to make sure there's no injuries involved, and we make sure both of us are trained properly. So likely you might get in the ring with somebody that's green, which is a beginner, and of course that person may not be super trained, and next you might end up hurting somebody. But mostly it's the veteran's responsibility to make sure to take care of that certain person that's not highly experienced in them.
Yeah, right on. And then when something goes a little sideways, do people get like pissed or mad about that, or is it sort of understood that it's part of the game?
Yeah, it's pretty much part of the game. I mean, if we kind of mess up on like on a move or a spot, like they like to call it botched. But in this case, we kind of pick up where we left off. But like in my case, if somebody gets an injury, a legitimate injury, possibly stop the match, or in this case, if it's not too bad of an injury, you keep going, but you kind of change things up to what you are planned in the back.
Right on. Sensei Dauphin?
I just was going to be a jerk and say, you mean green? Green means that they're a beginner. It doesn't mean you got the green light to like smash their ass when you're fighting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, wrestling has got so many terminologies that you like. If I say kayfabe, that means like it's made up. But usually if I say shoot, that's real.
Okay.
So.
And then a big term that comes up because of, talk about early UFC fights or pride fights is a work. Tell everybody what a work is.
Well, yeah, work would be like it's like I say, kayfabe. That's if I say work or kayfabe, then it's like an act. So so you're not doing things for real. You're just making the fan think that it's real. But I don't want to put in too much secrets, but but that's pretty much the whole concept of wrestling.
Hey, don't worry. We only have thousands upon thousands of listeners. They won't tell anybody. We promise.
Well, they better get in the ring before they tell anybody.
Well, so hold
Yes.
on. Let's talk about that. Let's say somebody watching or listening is like, you know what? I've always kind of wanted to try that. What benefit is being a legitimate martial artist, and what would they need to know whether they're a legit martial artist or not is the way in? Like, what would be the steps for someone who's like, hey, I love my grappling, I love my wrestling, I want to go pro, at least in that kind of arena. What would you tell them?
Well, I definitely tell them like, it's basically all about conditioning. So if you're well conditioned to go pro, then, go for it. I mean, really, like there's like so many martial arts out there, they do good in traditional martial arts. And then next, they do so good and they want to go beyond, let's just say they want to go like compete. And,
Yep.
if they're well conditioned, they can like, go for it. I
Yep.
mean, there's nothing could stop them. I mean,
Right.
but that's their choice.
I want to come back to the conditioning question and go around the horn on it, but before I do, how important is creating a character when you're doing that?
Oh yeah, it's real important because you're creating somebody different. Like it's not just you. It's like almost like I could say like an alter ego of you. It's like you're creating like a cartoon character of yourself. It's like if you have like a funny side, you're a comedic, or you have some type of like a mean personality. You kind of put that into we call it gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then you kind of pick certain wrestling moves that kind of fit with your gimmick. Like in my case, I kind of put martial arts into my gimmick, and
Nice.
yet I have like it in video games, so I kind of put those together, and it kind of blends in to create my character. And yet my character in wrestling, I call him TJ Karts. So
Okay.
yeah, of course I use my name TJ and then the Karts, the KARTZ. So I take that from like Mario Karts and then just put a Z on the end of that. So that'd be like that's the real me mixed with the video game me. So I was basically a big Mario fan.
Love that. For no reason in the world, I'm just picturing Paul, Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, setting up his pile driver, his signature move. I grew up on that. So if you could pro wrestle any wrestler, this isn't one of the 10 questions we'll get to later, of all time, and you could get that headline match, who would that be against?
Man, there's so many good wrestlers. Man, I'm gonna try to go quick with this, but I would say one person I could think of is The Rock.
We're big fans of The Rock around here.
Yeah.
It'd be Hulk Hogan for me, just so you know. I want to do the Hulk. That's the guy I'd want to wrestle.
Yeah, but I don't want no leg drop.
Yeah. Quick side note, through the biz, a woman I shot with, her husband and he directed The Rock in Rampage, and she spent almost every day with him for 9 months. And I said, hey, is he really as good a guy as it seems? And she said, in 9 months, I've never met a nicer person. None of that's fake. And the only time he got mad was when they scheduled him so he couldn't work out 2 days in a row. And he said, no, this never happens again. We're all good, but don't ever do that again. And that's the only time was because he needs his jam. So I want to back up to one thing though. And I do want to go around the horn on the Sensei Suino. We'll start with you because, he mentioned conditioning. Like that's actually the first thing everybody on this call would need if they said they want to mix it up. So I want to talk to you now back to our conventional martial arts. What level of conditioning is the gap between a good dojo martial artist and a competitive martial artist?
It can be very big. You can exist in a dojo and train with your friends. I'm talking about the judo world. That's where most of my competitive, my combative experience has been. You can play with your friends. Usually there's rounds, right? You're going to be doing what we call randori, right? Free practice. You're not doing shiai level stuff. You're always taking care of your partner. You always have an agreement, a tacit agreement. 90% of the time you have an agreement about how hard you're going to go. Mm-hmm. When you step out on the mat, you're playing for a medal with a clock. Somebody's going fast and hard, and it should be both of them, right? It's a big mistake if only one goes that way. It's just another level. And then what you find out your first 2 or 3 matches is you're going to get gassed, and it doesn't matter what your skill is at that point. If you can't match the guy with intensity, you're going to lose because his intensity continues and yours is gone because you're gassed. So yeah, it can be a really big gap. And I would say, generally speaking, the lifetime martial artist who's always in the dojo is on a very different conditioning level from somebody who is regularly in a competitive tournament, even at a regional level. I'm not necessarily talking about national or international competition.
Right on. Hanshi Legacy, where do you go with that? I know back in the day, you guys didn't do a lot of the cross training, but how much conditioning gap is there between dojo and competition?
Well, I think that ultimately the dojo guys become the competitors. It's just that the conditioning is going to be up to you. When you first go in, your sensei is going to train you according to the way that you are. And if you're like a competitor like that, you'll either notice it or you will be pushing your way towards that. So
right.
The conditioning is what gets you there. And the training is making you realize what the art is. You have to be in anything. You can badminton, basketball, running down the street, you have to be in good condition. That's first thing that comes along.
Thanks, Hanshi. And Sensei Dauphin, what do you think? I know that's an incredible part of your regimen.
Yeah, well, I like to stay in tip-top physical shape as much as I can at my age. But I want to say that one thing that was said to me way in the beginning when I wanted to compete, Sensei Legacy said, you got to start running. You got to do road work. And that's when I started running, right? When it was like, because he said, you're going to get tired when you fight. When you get in the ring and you start fighting with people, you're going to get tired. So I started running. I was already, through my background in athletics, doing other things. But it's funny how things come full circle, because lately, my BJJ coach said to me, because Sean, in the BJJ world, people say, or maybe in the judo world too, they say, you use too much strength, you use too much strength, you use too much strength. And Madison said to me, you know who complains about people using too much strength? Weak people. Right? So I don't know. I think you want to be able to use your body the best way you can. And, my mantra is, how flexible are you? How strong are you? And how much endurance do you have? And you should always checking those things. And if you're high on those three things, you're probably going to do better in the competitive realm.
Right on. Thanks, Sensei.
Yeah. You got to be trained properly first, though. Right?
I just want to chip in for 2 secs. The worst time, Sensei Dauphin, fighting you or not being hit by you, it's in the later rounds when I want to lift my knee because I see an opening and I'm just too slow because I'm too tired. And I'm like, I need to up my training and my basics and my conditioning, because that was the limiter, not the other stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in our conversation with TJ Williams here. I'm so happy to be here. I'm here with Sensei Randy Dauphin, Sensei Niklaus Suino, Hanshi Gary Legacy, our co-hosts. And I just want to say, I often talk about things we've done, this and that. And all I'm saying today is I miss them. This is a bit personal. I've had a wonderfully fruitful spring. I've been in LA for almost 2 months, not quite of the time. And then I'm taking off to Calgary in a little bit to do some work. It's a really good time for me professionally, but I miss my teachers and my brothers. And I just want to say that out loud, because that's my feeling today toward them. Sensei Dauphin?
I'm excited. We're here today with Sensei TJ Williams. So stoked to have him on the podcast. He's a fourth in a little known system called the Chuck Norris system. I hope Chuck Norris doesn't pop up and smack me in the head for saying that it's a little known system, but he's also an instructor at Presti Karate, Les Mills body combat instructor. And as we were just talking about, he's actually a professional wrestler, the first one we've had on the show. Sensei Williams has more than 20 years of martial arts experience under his belt at this point. He's the creator of a really good podcast called The Kickoff. Okay. And he's had many illustrious guests on that podcast. Like, well, me, I was on that podcast.
Enough said.
Yeah. But no, I've been listening to it, Sensei Williams, and it's a good podcast. Everybody should go check it out. we'll light it up at some point. We'll put it on this so that people can find it more easily. Sensei Williams, he's an up and coming master sports, a good mix of strong foundation of experience with an unquenchable thirst for learning. This guy likes to learn stuff. When I was on the podcast, he asked me lots of great questions that I hope were to his benefit. I really enjoyed my time with him. We have similar views on martial arts, and also our personal background. We're like brothers from different mothers, me and Sensei Williams, right? Because we had similar experiences in our youth and as we grew up, which we'll get into that a little bit too. A really cool thing about Sensei Williams, not only does he train in the Chuck Norris system, but he's going to grade in that system to a 5th Dan. And I know he's going to have the opportunity to meet him, and Grandmaster Chuck Norris is going to be shaking his hand and putting a nice black jacket across his shoulders, which I want to see that picture, man. Listen, he's a really passionate martial artist. He's a really good guy, and I'm really excited to have him on the podcast with us. And let's crack this conversation open, Sean.
Thanks, Sensei. So for everybody watching or listening, if you're on YouTube, we're so glad you're there. Subscribe and like. Same with whatever podcast you're on. And I hope you're having a great time baking your pie for tonight while you're listening. We love that, or wherever you're driving to. But for everybody here live on the Zoom call with us, the chat button at the bottom is where you get to be a part of this living history called Punch, Kick, Choke Chat. Hey, everybody, it's our 99th episode. We are ecstatic about that. We'll talk later about, what the 100th episode that you're obviously all invited, and we're so happy you've taken this ride with us. But the question at the bottom is how you get to be a part of it in the chat button. And Daniel J. Holland III, Sensei, just threw up the red thing. So if you're watching, you can see that. And other than that, we're going to jump right in. So Sensei Williams, we talked a little bit before about things you want to talk about. And man, just the way you said it, like my childhood and what I'm doing now because of it. So we'll get to what you're doing now because of it in a bit, but we ask all our guests, what was it like for you growing up? And take as much time as you want with that. And then we'll get to part 2, which is what brought you into your first dojo.
Well, how to put it this way, growing up in Niagara Falls, I mean, I grew up pretty much mid 80s, well, pretty much late 80s to like the 90s. I mean, I was like the type of kid, I grew up with ADHD. I can't say I was very well. Let's look at it this way. I wasn't academically motivated, but look at it this way. I was I was a kid with an imagination, but I couldn't just sit and think about that imagination. I had to act on it. So I was the type of person that couldn't sit still. But in this case, of course, let's just say I knew how to learn, but I couldn't learn properly because of my ADHD. And, it was pretty tough for me as a kid going to school. And, I always, well, let's just say I was I was a tiger. So, I mean, not that I was like getting on people's nerves, but, I was just hyperactive. I couldn't stand still. My mother, bless her, she had to deal with me all those years. And, the best thing she could have done for me is like give me the whooping treatment. But, that's how I act. I act right now because of her whoopings, but definitely she is really concerned about me being pretty much where I am now. But just looking at my childhood, pretty much growing up with pop culture, video games, movies, cartoons, television, I guess that was like my therapy from everything else. If I wasn't into school, I just had to be in front of the TV with the Nintendo, Sega Genesis, any type of game that there was back in the 90s. And that was just my childhood, but not to say I wasn't active enough. I mean, I always, like usually years ago, we used to play outside a lot. So it wasn't the technology that we have today. It wasn't by what we had years ago. So, I mean, I was mostly outside riding my bike, like playing in the yard, I was just keeping myself active. That's how we do things years ago. It's like playing football in the street, playing basketball in the street. And, pretty much growing up back then felt like felt like it meant something back then
Mm-hmm.
compared to now. It's like nowadays it's just like I just want to sit in the house and just relax. And I don't want to go anywhere. With all the things going on right now, just it's better to stay safe at home than going outside.
Sure. And you mentioned, like the technology, like these phones, they'll do everything for you, but you just stare at this little box for way longer than I ever stared at the Atari screen.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you your thoughts, and then we will go around the horn on this because I think it's a really important question that we haven't quite touched on yet. Is you mentioned ADHD, and I personally don't know if I have ADHD, but I'm pretty darn most of the boxes would tick. There seemed to be a lot of martial artists who were restless and could not sit still as kids. What do you think there is to that? Do you think there's something in that?
Oh, definitely. If things are done properly. Now, I mean, there's like a lot of people that grew up with that condition, and then yet next thing you know, you see them like they're the most successful people. Like if I can think of one person, Jillian Michaels, I think she had the same condition growing up, and you see her now, she's probably one of the toughest trainers in the world, doing like her own fitness thing, and even The Biggest Loser. Oh, I used to watch that a lot, mostly because she was somebody that went play with. I mean, if I always had to train with her, I mean, I'd probably do what she says. I wouldn't even put her or get on her bad side, because I know she'll look at me with that angry look, and then I'm gonna be either running the other way or I'm gonna be doing what she tells me to do. So I'm
Mhm.
not. That's the thing about how I was years ago to now. I don't want to be on people's bad side, so I make sure I know what's going on. I ask questions, so I don't assume that I know what I'm doing. I make sure I know what I'm doing.
It's beautiful. Let's start with you on this one, Sensei Dofan. There does seem to be a lot of restless kid syndrome ending up in the martial arts and succeeding. Any validity to that or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, so I can't diagnose it. I just know there's lots of different kids, right? Like some kids come in here, they have more focus, some don't. I was definitely a kid that got put in a carrel, like a study carrel, because I couldn't learn the same way that the other kids did. Like I just couldn't. Or I wouldn't, right?
Yep.
Couldn't or wouldn't. I don't know if I didn't have the skill or the will, but I know that when I was in grade 5, somebody took a different approach with me. His name was Greg Whittall, and Mr. Whittall helped me learn. And yeah, I was better off for it. I think of that a lot when I have kids in here who some of the other instructors are like, no, this kid shouldn't be here. And I'm like, dude, just hang with this kid. You're going to learn a lot from the kid. He's going to learn a lot from you. You're going to get more rewards. He's going to get more rewards. You're going to get to see him graduate from grade school, high school, have a girlfriend, have kids. That's going to be your reward.
Mm.
And he's going to benefit, or he or she is going to benefit from having you in their corner. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Love that. Hanshi legacy, restless kids. What about martial arts draws them?
Well, it's like anything else, I suppose. Once they reach, after say around 7, or they decide that they actually want to go, and it's not your parents saying, I'm going to put you in there. Because a lot of people may not, like those young people may not even relate to the idea of doing karate. But the ones who seem to watch it on TV, Karate Kid, etc., when those people come in, they're willing to learn, they're open to learning. So a good instructor will just show it a way that they can learn. Just slow it down enough. And you don't have to do everything in one day.
Mhm.
That's why really, if you look at good karate clubs and you ask, well, how long does an average black belt, does it take get an average black belt here? If you get 6-9 months, like right up to possibly 3 or 4 years, you could be in the wrong place, because they just don't take the time to show it to you properly. And then if you don't learn those 10 basics properly, the rest of your life is messed.
Mhm.
So that's what we are, right? We're teachers, so it's up to us to try to make it better for those younger people coming in.
Thanks, Hanchi. Sensei Suino?
Can you repeat the question? I've kind of lost the
Well,
track
we
a
were
little
just
bit.
chatting and he was talking about ADHD as a kid and the way that now he looks at things a little differently, finds the answer instead of assumes it and all that kind of thing. And I was saying that you might not even agree with my contention, but the martial arts tends to attract a lot of hyper ADHD, restless kids. And what is it about the martial arts that draws them and tends to sometimes even reward that type of thing?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know what the statistics are. Like, I don't know how many restless kids go into golf, or how many, you know what I mean? Like, there's probably restless kids going into everything, but we do get a lot of them in the dojo, and they seem to thrive there eventually, right? Some of them cool down in a month, some of them cool down in a year. But it's really common for the parents to go, "Hey, my kid has trouble focusing. Can you help?" And I'm like,
Right.
"Yes." And then, or they don't say that. And the first day of class, the kid is like, doing this. And I've decided a long time ago, I'm just going to tell them, "Hey, settle down, right?
Yep.
Focus." And I just keep doing it, but I'm not mad. I'm there for them. And in a month, 6 months, 9 months, a year, now the kid's doing this, focusing, doing the stuff, getting better. So I don't know what percentage of the kids are ADHD, but I know I get a lot of hyper kids. And B, almost all of them get better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sensei Dauphin?
I just want to call out the elephant in the room, right? A lot of parents bring their kids in here and I'm just going to say it the way I want to say it. They're shitty parents, right? And then they're looking for help because they're not doing a good job. And I think, to answer your question specifically, they don't have the answers for themselves. So they bring them to a dojo, which is a great thing. Like, that's good that we can help with that, right? Like,
Yep.
Parents not sure, how do I get my kid to be more disciplined? How do I get them to be more focused? How do I get them to be braver if they're being bullied? The logical answer is take them to a dojo, to a person who can help them with all of those things, right?
Yep. I just want to throw in one quick thing from my own experience, is that I was absolutely restless. I can't sit still unless I'm on a motorbike or in a race car for more than 20 minutes. But the fact that there were consequences in martial arts, like, if I misbehave, I don't get to do it. And that for me was actually something I first experienced it in ballet, which is another classical art, and then in karate with Yuhanchi Legacy. And it was like, oh, so it actually taught me to stand still and sit still, because I otherwise wouldn't get to do all the physical crazy stuff with my body. And so that's something that I really appreciated about it. Sensei Williams, so going forward from that time, what brought you into the martial arts and what kept you there?
Well, look at this way. As a child, I was, of course, bullied a lot. So, I mean, just I had to kind of build some type of way or I had to build my confidence some type of way. So, I mean, actually having the interest of martial arts came from watching movies and TV shows. So, I mean, I wanted to always get into martial arts. So on that day, like when I was 10 years old, I started out at Presti Karate, and it was like an exciting moment. It's like, here I am actually living a dream to actually do martial arts. So from there, I mean, it was I pretty much I was all geared up, but it's not like I didn't want to go. I mean, I was always ready, always being there on time, and I was listening to my instructor. I was still acting a little silly sometimes, but nevertheless, I was always there learning, and it was a greatest experience for me, and it kind of built me up to actually become a let's just say more active person. I went from going to doing martial arts. Then as I start going up to like high school, I started joining sports teams like football. I did track and field as a shot put and discus thrower. And so from there, I was like more active in working out. And that so basically martial arts kind of got me out of my shell. And I'm grateful like today that I'm still doing it. And I mean, I'd rather be doing other things than sitting around like doing nothing. I'd rather be up doing martial arts. And I mean, that's pretty much my whole life right now is martial arts.
And is there any moment you can remember when you were in that early flow where you went, I'm doing this the rest of my life? Like where you knew you were hooked? Was it day one? Was it a year in?
Oh, probably like day one. When I joined, just a funny story. I think I joined with a cold. I had like not like a bad cold, but usually when I'm sick, I mean, I still keep going. I mean, I'm not in the bed like sniffling. I can't like move or something, but like I was kind of a little sick, but I still did it. I mean, that just shows how dedicated I was. I may be like almost coughing, but I want this. It's telling me I just want to do this. It's like I want to. Well, at first, I kind of think I was going to do this to be like defend myself or kind of be tough. But like nowadays, it's like there's no point of using it if this world's gonna keep fighting and like nobody survives. So I'm kind of thinking like I just use it just to develop peace. Like there's too many things happen with these kids today that I see happen. So I can't be a vigilante like Batman or other the vigilantes, but I could be somebody that can like keep them out of trouble, like prevent them from being out in the street and make the wrong decisions. So I usually help these kids out very well when I'm an instructor. And yeah, matter of fact, I just came from teaching like a couple hours ago. So I mean, that's how I am right now. So I mean, teaching these kids, just being motivated, like keeping them active and keeping them focused, and even joking around a little bit. So yeah, I have kind of like an ironic humor. So is anybody celebrating a birthday?
Not at the moment.
Sensei Legacy celebrated a birthday recently.
Oh, happy season premiere.
Season premiere.
Yeah, that's why I always say, like, instead of saying happy birthday, I say happy season premiere.
Nice.
I mean, you're talking my language. So I actually want to crack open something you just said, and we've touched on it on our shows, but I think it deserves a little more of a chat, is how does a killing art, martial, I can kill you with my hands, spread peace?
Well, let's just say if you have control of your technique, then, well, look at this way. If you're not hitting anybody or you're slowing them down, I mean, look at this way. If the person walks away alive, I mean, if they don't go to the hospital, I mean, then of course, then that's more peaceful. You're trying to get to the point where you don't have to use it. I mean, really, mostly with martial arts, it's just definitely stepping out of the way. You're trying to stop the person from hurting you, not to hurt the other person.
Yeah, thank you for that. This is something that came up a couple episodes ago. Sensei Suino, let's pop to you on that. So, we presumably have deadly skills, but we all probably would agree that peace is the goal, not violence. So how does that work?
And it's kind of a cliche now, isn't it? Right? We're always talking about martial artists are peaceful people, but we're capable of violence. How does that work? I don't know. I mean, the first step is it makes you calm and it makes you rational, right? So you understand the risks, you can evaluate them. But when the shit goes down, theoretically, you're going to be able to handle it. I don't know how to answer that question. It's just, I'll tell you one story. I used to be a teaching assistant at University of Michigan. I taught an intro to writing class, and there were always 2 or 3 University of Michigan hockey players in my class, and they were pretty good writers and pretty nice guys. And one day I went and watched them play, and it was a big melee on the ice, and these guys were fighters, man. They're beating the crap out of the other guys. It was awesome to watch. So the next Wednesday or whatever, they're in my class. I go, dudes, you seem like the nicest people in the world. You were kicking some serious ass the other day. What's up with that? And they're like, well, look, we know we can do it. And there's a venue available for it. We do it on the ice. That means the rest of the time we can be cool. Well, I don't know. Isn't martial arts kind of like that too?
That's a great story. None of us who race our cars speed on the way home from the racetrack. We're all trundling down. Everybody's zipping by us, all aggro. And it's like, I just got it out, man. Like, you can't do anything on the 401 that's even touching what we did on the track. So why would we try? What about you, Hanshi Legacy? Why does a violent art actually make things more peaceful?
basically simple. I guess it's like being a police officer. It's better to have them present and calming things down because they have the capability of doing it, as opposed to having like two people or, you know, a couple of people trying to kill each other who don't even know how to do that. So it's tough to answer, except that you can probably make it less dangerous. You can probably make that situation less dangerous than two people with baseball bats or knives.
Love that. Sensei Dauphin?
I don't know. Most of us, if you train in a good dojo, 5 or 8 years in, you're going to be able to beat 99.9% of the people who didn't train or who can't fight. You just easily, you're going to be able to handle that situation. So you get to choose if you want to fight or if you don't want to fight, right? You get the choice. Some people don't have a choice. Somebody attacks you, like you got to fight. Like, that's it. You don't know how to fight. Nobody picks on somebody that they think is going to kick their ass, right? They pick on somebody that they think they can beat. So we have the choice as martial artists whether to fight or not. And the only thing I would say about that, Sean, is, I found myself in situations like even a couple of summers ago where a young kid jumped out of a car and like thought he wanted to fight me. And I didn't say too much, but after like a minute or so, I just looked at him and said, you and I both know nothing's going to happen here. So you should just get in your car and drive away. And he did. He just got in his car and drove away, right? Because he knew. So that's a really practical way of the way we spread peace, right? Yep. But I think also the morality in the dojo, right? We're teaching people like in the Spider-Man way, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And we teach people that, it's in our rule set here. If I get in a fight tonight, when I leave, I got to tell Sensei Legacy. I have to call him on the phone and say, I got in a fight, and then he gets to judge whether I was right or wrong or what happened, right? So we teach a big morality with what we're doing. We teach a high skill level with a lot of power, and we couple that with morality. So that's how we spread peace, I think.
I love that. Yeah, I think about the idea that you can't actually be a pacifist if you don't have the ability to be violent, because then it's not a choice. It's actually a default. And that's not being anything. That's just being afraid and hoping that your ideology matches. Sensei Williams, talk us through then your journey. You start with karate. How does your martial arts unfold moving forward?
I mean, I've kind of moving up to ranks. Pretty much, I had my first degree black belt test right when I was a senior in high school. I mean, I could pretty much remember that whole day. I mean, it was like the day after my homecoming football game that I had the black belt test. I was hoping on that football game I didn't get injured. So, but luckily I was fine for the next day to actually take the test. And the way I took the black belt test back then, we start off with katas, then go on to hand strikes, kicks, blocks. I mean, I felt like I was like getting a workout, but like nevertheless, that was like my greatest moment right there. Like I really worked hard from working from white belt to working for black belt. So it is like that was my moment right there where I was at an opportunity. I was actually living a dream. I'd see like the black belt was like the greatest belt like that you can get in martial arts. It's like, you're living a dream. It's like if I got that belt, I feel powerful. But yet, I guess the journey that I did was more powerful because I worked. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. So here I am with that black belt, and like after the black belt test, the testing board, they take you like in a little office there, and of course it was like my current sensei, my current instructor, like kind of talked to me, and then of course he kind of says, "We think of testing for second degree next year," and I kind of sound perplexed. I kind of look perplexed, and from there. And then my mother was like sitting next to me, and she's like, she got so excited and said yes. And then that's like, I passed my first degree black belt test. And I was like, oh, excited. I didn't even know what to say. and then of course I go back to the room, and you got all those people, I was just raising my hands up in victory, and everybody was just clapping and cheering. It was just like that was the greatest moment. And just getting my belt. And the one thing that I can remember, like when I get home, is getting the biggest cramp in the world. Oh yeah. As soon as I get out the car, I get like the biggest cramp in the back of my leg, and I was like, I almost jumped in the air. Whoa. I mean, that I guess that's like telling you that you're gonna feel pain after the test, or feel pain after you've done all the work.
I can relate, my friend. I can absolutely relate. I won't retell the story, but I lay on the ground at the bottom of a drained whirlpool and could not move after my black belt grading, or my recommendation anyways. So listen, I want to ask you something, and I'm sorry, senseis, on my co-hosts, I'm jumping out of order because I really want to hear about this. Talk to us about your upcoming 5th degree black belt grading, because I know you're excited about that, and I know that's a big belt, and that's a big moment.
Well, definitely. This is how things work in our martial arts style, the Chuck Norris system. I mean, we have 4 physical tests, and of course, when you reach your 4th degree, you have to wait 4 years for your next rank. Of course, within those 4 years, this is a lot different than the last physical test, because you only take 4 physical tests. So the 4th degree is like the last physical test you take. Oh, speaking of that, today marks the 4th year, or 4 years of I took my last physical test. So of course
Season premiere.
Yeah,
season premiere the next year, baby.
Yeah. So of course, in that case, after you get your 4th degree, you have your 4 years wait, but within those 4 years, you have to take like 2 master development series. So you have to take level 1 and 2, and of course after that, it's at Mr. Norris's, or Chuck Norris's, discrete, if you are qualified for 5th degree. So it's more than just taking those master development series. You have to pretty much stay active within the style or the system, or even the organization. You have to take classes, teach classes. They basically want to know how involved you are in karate. So you just can't take the classes and then next expect to be selected for a 5th degree. And for 5th degree, yeah, you have to go to our convention, which is the International Training Conference in Las Vegas. Yeah, they have that. They have that every year. No, that's if you can afford it, because it's roughly expensive going. I mean, you're talking about roughly, for one person, roughly probably close to $1,000, $1,200. That's like a lot of money. But yet, the candidate that's going for 5th degree, you go to Vegas. You have to come up with a 2-minute performance, and then after that 2-minute performance, after everybody's done, you have to go up on stage, and Grandmaster Norris puts on your black jacket. And yet, after you get your black jacket, you have to go in front of the UFAF board, or United Fine Arts Federation, and you have to do like an oath. And then, of course, from there, you're officially a 5th degree black belt. So roughly, it's not much of a physical test. I mean, I think the test would be like, if I can make it from now to July. So I could say I'm taking it day by day, and I'm really being cautious of what happens from now until I get to the convention. Like I said, I'm trying to take care of his knee, and it's like it's healing pretty well, but I'm taking certain precautions and not do anything foolish. Yep. So in this case, as much as I like to get back in the wrestling ring, I mean, I want to at least get this master rank first, because after I get it, I don't have to worry about nothing for 5 years. So within those 5 years, I can decide to go for 6th degree, or I can just stick with 5th degree. But I kind of accomplished my goal. Like my first goal was to get a black belt, which I did. But when I go into this convention, like so many times, I see people in my school going for a master rank. It kind of developed my envy to say I want to go for master rank. And yet, years later, here I am. Here I'm getting the opportunity to be on stage and get my 5th degree. And that's just one thing that I really just pushed for, kind of get myself going beyond what I can do just to get to that point.
Fantastic. We're doing something just a little earlier tonight because I do have to go after this segment. So you're getting your 10 questions now.
Oh yeah.
Because I asked if I could be the one to ask them because I love doing this with the guests. So your 10 questions, Sensei Williams.
Hey, here we go.
We ask that you answer as impulsively as you can and then elaborate if you need to after.
Yeah.
What is the most effective move in your martial arts arsenal?
Like I say, like the fake front kick. I love doing that fake front kick. You know, I always tell my students, like, if you want to get a door open, use that kick.
Who is the most influential martial artist in your life?
Well, if I have to say, Grandmaster Chuck Norris. I mean, here he is. He has like, of course, he has his own martial arts style. In this case, he decided to introduce this style to people around the world. So I guess what's influential about that is that he's trying to bring the world together. You know, the world is always such against each other, and we always talk about our differences and who's better. But I mean, we shouldn't work on who's better. We should like really come together and be like one world and not so separated. You know, and I like, let's just say I enjoy going to Canada. I mean, of course I'm close to the border. I'm always over there more times than I am at home. Mostly Comic Cons, wrestling shows, and of course my brother and my sister-in-law live there, and with my two nieces. So I would say there's, other than visiting Canada, I like to visit other countries too. So I want to at least learn like their, like how they do things. But you know, I don't mind making friends with people from different countries. You know, I met people from all around the world. So I mean, I'm not going to just like not say I don't want to meet anybody, but no, I like to meet anybody. So
and who do you think is the most influential martial artist of all time and why?
Bruce Lee, because of his philosophy. You know, I always read most of his philosophy. Like the one thing that I can think of right off the head is the usefulness of the cup is its emptiness. I mean, most of his philosophy is perplexing, but really, if you really read into his philosophy, you definitely know what he's talking about. So with that quote, the usefulness of the cup is its emptiness. That means if I was to walk into like Randy's dojo or your dojo, my cup is empty. So it's nothing in there. So I'm basically drinking what you're pouring in my cup. So I mean, either I like it or I don't, but you know, I take a little sip of that. And let's just say I go to another dojo. I mean, it's not even full, and the sensei just pours more into my cups, is pouring on the knowledge. And that kind of gets to, I don't want to go off about topic. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I went to like a martial arts festival. You know, you got 8 martial artists. They're giving us 30 minutes of their sample martial arts style. And, you know, I'm just so engaged, and I'm like drinking pretty much everything that these 8 senseis were just pouring into my cup. You know, lucky it wasn't alcohol, so I wasn't gonna get drunk. So, but nevertheless, that's pretty much what Bruce Lee's philosophy means to me. So that's more influential to me, that he adds philosophy to martial arts.
What excites you most about the next 5 years of your training?
Likely teaching more kids classes, and probably going outside of my martial arts style and like teaching, or at least doing like a seminar at like local schools, or even doing a seminar at our convention. I mean, that's like, teaching has become like really part of my life now. It's like I have more energy, even if I'm teaching fitness classes. I have all that energy. I just don't want the kids to have that same energy as I do, so they can pretty much pass that along and, you know, become successful and do what they can do. They have the confidence, so they're not scared to stand in front of somebody and, you know, express their feelings, and, you know, just being influential. So that's pretty much my way I look for it in 5 years.
Love that. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get there?
I like that serum say, you have you're an individual with a pure heart. You know, it's a shame people take advantage of that. but you know how to use it properly, to benefit others as well as yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I'm guessing I might know the answer to this. Do you have a favorite film and television martial artist?
Oh, nevertheless, Jackie Chan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's come up a bit recently for us. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's all the stunts. It's amazing that he's a martial artist and a stunt man. I mean, and he has his own stunt team. I was just watching Big Brawl the other day. So that was like one of my favorite movies to watch.
Is there a martial artist in all time, whether they're living or dead, who you would like to train with the most?
Michael Jai White. Yeah. I mean, I'm into his movies too. I mean, of course, one movie that I could think of is Never Back Down 3, where he's like trying to train this MMA fighter, and other MMA fighters were like trying to teach from him, and he's like teaching them and I'm seeing him doing katas, and he actually beats the guy with a kata. So it's amazing how you're using that bunkai application to actually beat an MMA fighter with kata.
Full disclosure, everybody on this call, I've never seen a Michael Jai White movie. I'm
Come on.
I'm hearing maybe I should. Maybe
I can't believe that.
I know. I've watched clips of him on YouTube and TikTok and stuff, but I've never actually seen a flick. I got to get on him.
Short guy.
Amazing. Yeah, my bad, everybody. Sensei Williams, if everybody in the world could have the greatest benefit you've gotten from martial arts, whether they train or not, what would it be?
Just being coachable. I mean, and also just being humble. I mean, it's better to humble yourself and be exalted after than exalting yourself and being humbled after.
Love that. I'm typing that in my phone. Our last two questions come as a pair. What is your greatest achievement? What is your greatest regret?
My greatest achievement is actually receiving my first degree black belt. That was like my greatest achievement. And just going back like almost 10, 15 years. And I still got my first black belt that I got like close to 18 years ago. And it's like almost like a white belt because I wore it so many times. So yeah, so I haven't changed my belt yet. And like I say, my greatest regret is not starting sooner. So, I mean, I wish I would have started before I was 10 years old.
Yeah. Well, I started at 18 and I wish I started sooner too. So Sensei, I have to pop off the call and I just want to say, I'm sorry to leave. I have to go to work, but it's such a pleasure to meet you. And at the end of the episode, we normally say a little something about our guest. And I just want to say, when you said that your goal is that you could be a man with a pure heart, that's all I'm getting from you. Like, this conversation is way too short for me to know you, but I'm just in awe of how open and guileless and without layers you're talking about who you are and what you hope for your students and for yourself. So I'm going to pass it off to Sensei Dauphin, but I just want to say thanks for your time tonight. And I do apologize for leaving. It's a real pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Senseis, we'll see you soon. And thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you for the 100th episode.
Ooh, are we watching?
Have fun on set, Sean. Hey, so he passed it to me. Doesn't have to go to me. But the thing I had written down that I wanted to talk about is nobody so far, Sensei Williams, that we've had on the call, I don't think has much of a connection to Grandmaster Norris. And I don't know if you've met him yet, but I'd like to just go around the horn on thoughts and opinions about Grandmaster Norris. You know, Sensei Legacy will know him from, or have thoughts from longer, and Sensei Sereno, I have some thoughts, but let's go around the horn on that. Like, so what do you think is good about Grandmaster Norris, Sensei Williams, and why are you in that system, and what are you gaining from that, or what do you like about him? What movies do you like? Just give us some thoughts about Chuck Norris.
Oh, really? Like, when I started out with martial arts, I saw all these pictures of my sensei and or my master instructor and Chuck Norris on the wall, and I was thinking that Chuck Norris actually taught at my school. But when I thought about it, it was around the time that I joined, he was still doing like Walker, Texas Ranger. I think it was either the beginning or the mid fourth season. So of course, there's no way that he actually would come to my school and actually teach. Or like, however, I mean, when I first went to my convention, when I first went to the convention back in 2006, he actually was doing a seminar. So I mean, we was like all in like almost sparring gears sort, and he was going over techniques, and it was like an amazing seminar. It's like that was actually me being taught by Grandmaster Norris. So in that case, I mean, I got pretty much the indemnity to actually get taught by Mr. Norris, but not actually get a private section. But as far as Grandmaster Norris individually, I mean, he's definitely the most generous person that I ever met. Like the first time I took a picture with him back in 2006, of course, this is the first time he get to meet me. With some celebrities, I go to Comic Cons and meet celebrities. I always have my hands forward, have my two thumbs up. In the first picture, I had my like hands forward, and I take the picture. But when I went back to 2000 or 2010, I mean, I had a second picture with him. This is around the time where I like dropped a lot of weights and I was skinny. I was like a stick. And then of course I went to do the same thing, put my hands forward, and he's like, why don't you put your arms around me? Pretend we're friends. And it's like, I guess that's what's his permission that I can actually make contact, with celebrities. I don't want to make too much contact, but I'm just great that I actually meet Grandmaster Chuck Norris. And he sees me like compete so many times. I used to do like demo competitions with our school, and we're in front of Grandmaster Norris competing and actually demonstrating. So of course he pretty much knows who I am, not just based from that performance, but also from my black belt tests. Like after my black belt test, they send a video to Grandmaster Norris. He looks at himself and also reads the essays. So with every black belt test from first degree to fourth degree, you have to write an essay. Like there's like different subjects for the essay. I don't remember the questions, but but they, every time you write them, they're sent to Mr. Norris, and then he reads them, and he pretty much knows who you are and what your goals are. So I mean, I'm just excited for July that I actually get to go see Mr. Norris again. And this time, I mean, I'll be getting my black jacket in front of him. It says that's the tradition of our style. You go for fifth degree, you get the black jacket. So I'm definitely going to be promoted for master. Like I said, I'm taking it day by day and make sure I'm there when July 6th comes.
Outstanding. None of us on this call can say, I'm going to meet Grandmaster Chuck Norris again, because none of us even met him one time yet. So I think that's pretty cool. Sensei, what thoughts do you have about Chuck Norris and, in your memories from your youth all the way through, like opinions, ideas? What do you want to share?
So the Octagon movie was really inspirational for me. I started judo when I was a kid, but I started karate when I was about 19. Must have been right around the time the Octagon came out. And I remember movies were like 75 cents or some stupid amount of money. And I went downtown Ann Arbor and I went to Chuck Norris, went to watch the Octagon by myself. And I knew like one kata at the time or something. And I left that movie at night and I went out into the park at night and I practiced everything I knew about karate for about 3 hours after watching the Octagon. I was so jacked, man. It was awesome. But no, I mean, I've watched like virtually every movie that Chuck Norris has been in. I watched a ton of the Walker, Texas Ranger, but I'll tell you my favorite part is that I have a bunch of knucklehead friends back when I used to play golf, and they used to always think because I was a martial artist, they should nickname me Chuck Norris. So I got a bunch of chucklehead friends on Facebook that always call me Chuck Norris on Facebook. So I don't know. I feel like I got a little spiritual endowment from him along the way.
What a compliment.
Right?
What a compliment. Sensei, what thoughts do you have about Chuck Norris, his system? You've known lots of people who've interacted with him, like, yeah, so.
I do, but him personally, like I don't know him. I've never met him. I just know that he's a lot better. He's a lot better a martial artist than they make him out to be when he fights Bruce Lee. Or I just find that, and what people don't realize, they're movies, and Bruce Lee pays them to lose, right? So, so with that context, you really don't know who's who in my situation. So I really have no comment on him. I know he's a great martial artist, but it's just hearsay for me.
Well, for me, what I would say is the very first martial arts biography I ever read before I was a martial artist, I was like 13, was the Chuck Norris biography, because I wanted to be a martial artist. So I would just buy Black Belt magazine and all this stuff. And so I learned a lot of stuff at that time, you know, that he was an Army Ranger, he was stationed in Korea, Tang Soo-do, like all that stuff. I was fascinated by it. Other things about him were, you know, that I find impressive about him is that he loves karate. Everybody thinks of him as a high kicking karate guy. They also forget that he did a lot of grappling. Like he was one of the first guys to be like excited about the Gracie family and doing stuff with the Gracie family in the United States. And another thing I would say about him is that, you know, I've never heard anybody say one negative thing about Chuck Norris. Not in my entire life have I heard anybody say he was a jerk, he's unskilled, he's not a real martial artist, he's fake. Never. Like anybody that I know says, no, he's a real martial artist. And, you know, building on what you said, Sensei Legacy, like, again, like, I mean, maybe this will shine good or bad light on Punch Kick Choke Chat, but I know Sean likes to go out there and troll Bruce Lee fans and like get them irritated, but I've heard lots of people say like that if Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee had a real fight in real life, like that would not have been a fight. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard people say it that are real martial artists. The other thing about Chuck Norris is the jokes, all the memes.
Yeah.
There's no meme that's based on anybody beating Chuck Norris. Every single joke is about him kicking somebody else's ass or beating someone or doing the splits between two jumbo jets as they're flying through the air. Like, you know, and this would be the last thing I would say about Chuck Norris, unless it comes up more on the show, is listen, Sensei Williams, the next time you hug him when you get your black jacket, say, I know these guys on Punch Kick Choke Chat. They love you. They want you to come on Punch Kick Choke Chat. It's going to help your career immensely. You're going to make millions. You're going to make millions of dollars by being on Punch Kick Choke Chat. Anyway, I joke about that, but it would be outstanding if we could possibly have him here. That would be like, it would be episode 100 done. No more Punch Kick Choke Chat after we had him on, because you can't go up from there. Sensei Williams, listen, a couple of questions have come in through the group chat. And I think I'm going to go to superfan Mark Altamar first. And this is what he says. He says, this is one of Sensei Suino's students, a good friend of all of ours too, and a super high level martial artist. He says, I'm interested in hearing about the Chuck Norris system and how that compares to other karate systems. And so where do you want to take that, Sensei Williams? Does it compare to other karate systems? Is it just a karate system? What is the Chuck Norris system? Where do you take that?
Well, going from like Mr. Norris's or Grandmaster Norris's experience with going to Korea, learning Tang Soo-do, I think the Chuck Norris system pretty much comes from Tang Soo-do, and it Grandmaster Norris modifies it into its own style. So if you were to see a kata from Tang Sudo and you see a kata that in the Chuck Norris system, they'll see they're similar, but there's also some modifications. But that's what every other style, you see, like if you see a basic kata in Tang Sudo and you compare it to something from a Japanese style, like Shotokan, then the similarities. There's always I always like told stories that you learn one martial styles from one country, and it's brought to another country, and then it's modified. It's a new style, but it's a modification of another style. It's like a base style. If I think about it well, the movie Ip Man. I've seen that movie probably 100 times. You got Donnie Yen playing Ip Man, and you got this other styles of Chung Kung Fu that they're so aggressive, but with Donnie Yen's character, the Ip Man, he's so calm, cool, and collective. And you see in the beginning of the movie, he does things behind closed doors, and then until you get that one person that sees them fight, and it becomes bragging rights. So in this case, in this case, Grandmaster Norris didn't want to keep to himself. He wanted to just kind of try this out and see how well it develops with other people. It's basically almost a traditional style, but it's modified to like what he likes. So like if it's effective to him. Like for Bruce Lee, he got Jukudo, that kind of derived from Wing Chun, which he got from Ip Man. And he created his own style by blending in boxing and other styles. So that's pretty much the Chuck Norris system. We pretty much blend in other styles into our system. So in this case, other than getting like the traditional martial arts style, we get something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well as Krav Maga. So we're trying to evolve in what's happening to society today. People are just filming their fights, and people are watching. They see how you fight, and they're going to do the same thing. But yet, I guess he's putting in other styles to kind of counteract what you see out on the streets.
Okay, so let me get a little more specific, because I feel like Mark Altamar right now, I'm reading his mind, and I want to help him out. So Sensei Williams, what's a typical class look like, or a typical week look like in the Chuck Norris system? Like, you walk in the dojo, what do? Do you take your shoes off? What kind of uniform do you put on? How do you warm up? What does a class structure look like? Day after day, or week after week, or month after month? What does that look like?
Well, it kind of changes up at usually for lower belts. It's always the full white uniform, and then of course once you get the black belt, it's kind of like a salt and pepper look, like black pants, white top. So that's pretty much how we are uniform. Of course, master ranks is full black uniform, and I guess if you turn the lights off, it'll disappear. So yeah, we almost got that ninja look. But nevertheless, like the structure of a class, it's like we warm up, we do minimum stretching, and from there we kind of go into like basic core techniques, blocks, kicks, and then from there we either go over a kata or any other traditional fighting, or like say we go over like one steps, where we call somebody throws a punch and we do a series of techniques, or we could just do pretty much self-defense. In this case, like we call it stand-up combatives as well as ground combatives. So since we're putting like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga in our curriculum, we kind of modify it, kind of give it a different name. Instead of calling it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Krav Maga, we call it stand-up combatives and ground combatives. We're kind of evolving it to streetwise fighting, other than just like sport karate and like what Krav Maga is like, kill or be killed. But yet in this case, we also have like different programs. Like if you want to do BJJ, then you can do that. And also if you want to do Krav Maga, I mean, that's separate. But if we're doing it within our style, we just call it combatives.
Amazing. I like that. So another question that came in, and I think we'll go around the horn on this one, but we're going to start with you, Sensei Williams. This came in from one of our newest super fans. I'm just going to call her a super fan now, and it's ZT from JMac. And she says, do you think a violent art and competition, sorry, I'm just reading this directly. So do you think a violent art and a competition-based stress dojo can make you more violent because it doesn't have the element of respect? So if I'm getting at the nature of the question, I think it's, if you're only a competitive martial artist, then can it make you more violent or more aggressive if you don't have the classical element of the style? And so I'm going to start with Sensei Suino on that, and then we're going to go to you, Sensei Williams, and then we're going to go to you, Sensei Legacy, last. So if you're not in a classical dojo and you're just in like a pure competitive, like you go to a MMA dojo that's just gearing you up for competition, does it make you more violent, or can it make you more violent?
I think there's more nuance needed to answer that question. There are definitely dojos that emphasize violence. I knew some Kyokushinkai guys in Tokyo that their hobby was going out late at night and beating up drunk Americans, and they were encouraged to do that, right? That's a bad dojo culture. You know, but I think you can have personally, I'm a classical guy. I like the classical martial arts. That's where I want to train. I think that's where most of the virtue lies. But I'm sure there are non-classical dojos that teach good values, that have good, positive people in them. They train really hard. They compete. They go to tournaments, but they don't become violent, right? They don't become recklessly violent. But I think it's a next level inquiry. Even a classical dojo can make people violent if it's a bad atmosphere. That's what I think.
All right. Sensei Williams, what do you think? If you're not in a classical dojo and you're just in a dojo that's geared towards competition, can it make you more violent? Or does it make you more violent? Not can it, because obviously it can, but does it make you more violent?
Well, honestly, like I said, dealing with ADHD, I have always like an anger issue, but in this case, I don't want to go out in public and have people think of me as an animal. I mean, I want to have control of what I do. Some things kind of get on my nerves a lot, and I have to let the anger out. But in this case, I want to have control of myself and as well as the situation. So, with self-defense, one person that says it best with self-defense is Ian Abernathy. And he pretty much tells us there's legalities when it comes to defend yourself. You could be out there defend yourself, but next a person walks in, they see the person on the ground that you beat up and you're just running away. They think that you're the violent person, and in this case, you're in trouble. So in this case, I mean, I want to try to prevent that sort of situation. Last thing I want is somebody suing me for being violent to them. But in this case, I was told I mean, I was just defending myself, or not just defending myself. I was in fear of my life and I want an attorney. So I mean, I don't know if a lot of people would say that, but in this case, who's going to defend you in court, the cop or the attorney? Yeah.
Love that. Okay. Sensei Legacy, if you're just in a competitive dojo, is there a risk that's going to make you more violent than if you're in a different dojo, a classical dojo?
There's a possibility that it can, in my opinion, just simply. But if you go into a classical type of dojo, they usually follow the traditional things, right? And whereas if you just go into a dojo that really has no philosophy, yeah, you could get violent. You could go and use it in the street. And I think a lot of the times, even myself, right up to a green belt, and who hasn't wanted to try it? Who doesn't want to try karate, right? So you have that, and then I think that in a good classical dojo or with a good sensei, they also teach them the proper thing to do with martial arts. Like give them an image of you have a gun there, and if you make a mistake with it, you're going to kill somebody. So it really depends on the teacher. And yes, you can mislead people into being violent. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sensei. What you said is the thing where I was going to take it is that I don't care if you're in a classical dojo, a sport dojo, where it is, it depends who's teaching you. And
Yeah.
Sensei kind of said that too, right? Like that if your instructor, for me, when I came into martial arts, I said this to Sensei Williams when I was on his podcast. I said, he asked me before martial arts, what was it like? And I said, I was basically an angry person and a fearful person, right? And so if you take that combination of me being young, impressionable, angry, and fearful, and put me in front of an instructor who tells me they're going to empower me and tells me to go out and like use that, well, that's going to be negative. And I don't care if that's a classical martial arts dojo or a sport oriented dojo, right? That's my opinion, is that it boils down to the teacher. If the teacher's saying, no, I'm teaching you these skills, this is for competition. Okay, I see you're angry, you've got these things, but you got to control this. The teacher should be helping you with all of the stuff and not encouraging you to go out and do violent or reckless things, or they're a bad teacher. Not only bad, they're like the worst type of teacher. They're a shit teacher, in my opinion. So we are once again, Sensei Legacy, aligned in our opinions that it boils down to the teacher. Yeah. Sensei Svino, do you got anything you want to go with this, or a direction you want to take this for Sensei Williams?
Yeah, well, Sensei Williams, I wanted to ask for your thoughts on this. What makes a good training partner? What are you looking for? If you say, hey, I really want to go and train with that guy in karate, or who do I want to train with every Wednesday night, for 2 hours for the next year? What are you looking for? What characteristics, personality, skill set, that kind of thing?
I would say a person that is willing to learn, and willing to help me out. So, and definitely has a good character, and a person that's not looking to hurt me and just like somebody's gonna like pretty much make me like work out not just one day, just every day, and just like ask questions like how you do this and like what steps did you do for this. Definitely what we do like on Tuesday nights, it's like we have almost like a Zoom class. Like there's another black belt in Texas we have a Zoom class with, and it's only 40 minutes because that's like how long he does a Zoom class. But well, his class is longer, but that's how much the Zoom he gets. But he kind of breaks down every detail of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu move, and just small things that we don't look at, and then that's pretty much how we get better with ground fighting. So definitely that's the type of partner I want to look for, that's just going to give me like small details of how to get into things. It's just not getting to the end results. It's like, I think Randy said something about this. It's not the end result, it's the adventures. That's the reward. So definitely that's more what I'm looking for in a partner.
You said that. I wrote it down already.
Oh, man.
You said that. You must
somebody smart.
Yeah, I'm just as good looking as you, so you thought it was me. You were looking at me and you thought you saw yourself in the mirror. Yeah,
Common mistake.
Yeah, I swear that you still said that quote, or it was somebody else that said it, but it was like the end. It's not the end result, it's the adventures taking you to the end result that's rewarding. So hey.
Yeah. So I think that's a great question, Sensei. How about you answer your own question, and then we'll get Sensei Legacy to answer it too. What do you look for in a great training partner? Like what is it that you look for?
Well, I love what Sensei Williams said about curiosity, about willingness to learn, somebody that can train with you without hurting you. I don't mind, rolling with or sparring with somebody who's really intense and is, I do mind somebody who's trying to hurt me in regular practice. I don't mind somebody who's intense where there's some risk of being hurt, but I'm not picking that guy for my steady diet of training. I'm picking somebody who can moderate their intensity so that we can train longer, explore more, right, and lower the risk so that my mind can stay open and I can study and learn. So yeah, that's to me, curiosity, willingness to learn, and ability to train at a slightly lower level for a longer period of time, to be more creative, to learn more.
Awesome. Sensei, what do you think about that? What kind of, I mean, you and I fought a lot. I'm not sure everybody be looking for you and I as training partners, but what do you look for in a training partner? What do you think is a good training partner?
Somebody who's willing to take it just a little bit further than anyone else, so you can get down to the real martial arts. You know, it's instead of always being led. At some point, you have to become the cutting edge. And if you don't have a good partner, you're never going to be that cutting edge. You'll be part of the the scabbard or something. You know what I mean? Like I had you and I went in the ring. We never talked. You just walked into the ring. We knew we were there to fight. There was nothing else to do, so we did all our talking in that way. John Pearson was like that as well. When in my younger days, when I was in my early 20s, somebody who's just willing to take it a little bit further and is interested in making you better.
I like that answer. That's the type of training partner I look for too. Like, I want somebody who's when I'm looking for a training partner, I'm looking for somebody who's gonna help me be better, right? Like, if I have a deficiency, I want a training partner who's gonna help me overcome that deficiency. But right now, as the type of training partner I want to be for other people, when I step on the floor, I want everybody to look at me and say, I want to train with that guy. That's the guy. I want that guy to be my training partner, because I'm going to help them take it a little further, or I'm going to be safe, or I want to be the type of training partner that can give everybody what they need when they step on the floor and they look at me and go, I want to train with that guy. And I want to be that thing for everybody. I guess it's like, you know, the hockey player that steps on the ice, maybe they don't score the most amount of goals, but they help everybody else to be a better hockey player that steps on the ice with them. I think those are the best training partners, and they have to be experienced. Like, they got to have a really deep knowledge of martial arts. There's probably no people in their first year or two of training who can be that type of a training partner for people, but I think everybody on this call can be that type of a training partner for someone. We all can be that. That's why you said, since, you know, I don't mind if somebody wants to roll really hard with me or train really hard, because you can adapt yourself now to that type of training. So, listen, Sensei Williams, I'm going to quote Sean Benson, time is real. And we've hit that part in the show now where it's just done. Like, an hour and a half is gone. I knew it would. An hour and a half went by like a blink, right? Like, we've been chatting together for an hour and a half now. And this is the part where we go around the horn and we talk about our time with you and what we've enjoyed. And then we give you the last word to you. And then we do a little bit of housekeeping at the end, and then we shut it down. So that's what we're going to do. Sensei Suino, what do you want to say about your time tonight with Sensei Williams? Like, how are you feeling about it?
Loved it, man. Sensei Williams, I'm so glad we met, and I do want to cycle back and try to get on your podcast if we can make the schedule work.
Oh, definitely.
I really loved a few things you said, and they weren't so much about smashing people in the face or throwing them through the ropes. When we asked you, what do you look forward most of the next 5 years of your training? You said teaching kids, teaching in schools and at conventions. And then you went on to say that if you could contribute to helping those kids be able to express their feelings better and to stand with confidence, that was important to you. That really resonated with me. When you said that you hope God would say you were an individual with a pure heart, freaking awesome. But to me, the takeaway quote from tonight is, it's better to be humble early and be exalted after than it is to be exalted in the moment and be humbled later. I know I'm not exactly quoting what you said, but that was very powerful for me. I've never heard anybody put that in those terms before. And so I'm going to take that away and craft it and think about it a little bit more. Thanks so much for coming on, man. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Oh, yeah.
Sensei Legacy, what do you want to say about your time with Sensei Williams tonight?
Well, it was good to meet you. And I have never known any details about your style, Chuck Norris's style, which was good. It was good to listen to. And it was enjoyable. Your life story, getting into martial arts and training hard and staying in martial arts and looking forward to the future so you can give back. That's honorable. Okay. Thank you for coming on to our show, and possibly we'll meet again.
So Sean Benson gave you his thoughts, Sensei Benson. I always write stuff down. I learned about what Kickoff is in the pro wrestling vernacular now, that's something that's made up. So thank you for giving us that information about pro wrestling. It's super cool. You know, you want to, not surprising, you want to wrestle with The Rock. He's the greatest right now. He's the biggest name of all time, right? Not only in wrestling, but just everywhere. But I still want Hulk Hogan. He's the one I want. I want the atomic leg drop. Right?
Shit.
You said about not like we talked about this before, Sensei Williams. You and I like very similar, right? Like that you were not academically motivated. I was not academically motivated when I was younger. It just, didn't see the value in it. And nobody could express it to me in a way, but here you are, right? You've come this far. Good for you. And you said something when you said that. You said that you had an imagination. And I want you to know that Sensei Legacy, right at the beginning, he said, great martial artists have good imaginations. They can envision things. They can picture things. Their mind can. And if you have a good imagination, then that's going to bring your body to that place, right? Like it's going to take you there. So I really, truly believe that imagination has brought you to where you are. Another thing that we had in common was you said your mom gave you the whooping treatment. My mom gave me the whooping treatment. I know Sensei Trino probably got the whooping treatment. Sensei Lacy got it probably from his mom and his grandma. His grandma once threw a brick at somebody across the kitchen into somebody's back. So like, we all know what the whooping treatment is. Another good thing, I don't know, not Sensei Trino, but Sensei Legacy and I and yourself, we have this in common. We're all from border towns, right? Sarnia, Niagara Falls, Windsor. And I think we benefit from that. You get that cross-border experience. You get to hear about Canada. You get to hear about the United States. Also, things are a little rougher sometimes, right? Like coming back and forth. So that's a benefit. We're from border towns. Some things you said specifically, right? About using your martial arts to develop peace and help kids be better, right? Like we haven't talked about that too much, about how martial arts helps to develop peace. Again, like Sensei Suino said, I'm going to pontificate on that for a little bit. You said about your black belt test, and you credited with me, but it was you who said it. You said the journey was more powerful than the test, right? You said that all the moments that led up to your black belt test were more powerful than actually that moment in time when you had that test. If we all think about that, that's true of a lot of things. Like we've all won tournaments, world championships, been highly graded, done different things. The best thing about those things is all the moments that led up to them. Once you get the moment, it's done then. You got to find a new journey to come to a new moment, right? So I really like that. God, an individual with a pure heart. You are a person with a pure heart. Yeah, I believe that truly, having interacted with you now a few times. Michael J. White, man, I want to train with that guy too. That guy's a total badass. Like, I'm so happy you said his name. I want to train with him too. Yeah, the greatest benefit, right? Be humble. Everybody could be more humble, right? So I just want to say you're a really genuine person, Sensei Williams. Nobody's going to watch this podcast and think you're putting on a persona and trying to be something. Being genuine is a great thing. That's why I like you, because you're a genuine person, not a liar. You're not trying to pretend to be something. And so thanks so much for coming on. Last word goes to you, Sensei Williams. What do you want to say about your time with us?
Oh, I'd say, like, for everybody out there, it's always best to be authentic with people, even if you do the wrong thing, always be honest. And of course, yeah, it's always staying humble. Even if you go on the great things, you win a lot of championships, still be humble and just keep training and do your best. And, nobody, you feel like you'll be unstoppable. And yet people will look up to you and say that they want to be like you.
Love that. Thank you so much. So as we close this out, we have lots of good shows coming up. Actually, we're going to take a break next week because Sensei Legacy, Sensei Suino, and I are on our way up to Lévis, Quebec, and we're going to be teaching up there. It's going to be a great event. Like 1,200 people are going to be at that event. It's going to be an epic. It's a Hunchy Terrian, John Terrian global event, as he always does. So there'll be a break and then we're coming back. Things are starting to stack up. I'm not going to talk about all the names, but episode 100 is coming, right? Episode 100 is coming. It's on our website, www.punchkickchokechat. On that episode, we have let the cat out of the bag. So Hunchy Terrian, Hunchy Burkowski, and our great supporter, Sensei Copeland, is going to be on that 100 episode. I couldn't think of 3 better people to be on the episode with us. And while we're saying that, Sensei Copeland's tournament's on June 17th. Get your ass to Windsor and compete in that tournament. If you can't compete for whatever strange reason that I wouldn't accept, get down there and help him out. Be a referee, get him a coffee, do something to help him out. That's coming up. And as we leave, I just want to always thank the people that we thank. Mike Russell, Andre Sedeshev, Justin Shea, my great friend, Dan Holland III. Can't wait. We're going to be hiking in the Wyoming mountains again. Dan the Sausage Man. Jesse Ville Vito, Alden Adair, Josh Kitchens, Sydney Dauphin, and the one who really makes all of this work, Robert Schlumsky. He's the guy who's the driving force behind what we're doing here. And that's it. Thanks everybody for signing in. We really love having you here. And thank you so much. Thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.